This story starts like 15 years ago, and I have an aunt who used to live in the city, but when she had her first baby, she and her husband moved to a small ranch in the countryside, specifically where the the husband families belonged. And at the first, everything was fine, peaceful, until one day the neighbors warned her. They said, "Be careful with the witches that comes around here." They say those witches were attracted to newborn babies. My aunt didn't really believe them at the first, but a few days later she saw something. Something sitting on a tall tree. She described it as an owl, but much bigger, too big. And she thought it was strange, but she didn't try it. She tried to ignore it. Then one night, everything changed. She was sleeping beside her husband, and her baby was in the little crib next to the bed. The house was tiny, just one small room, maybe 3 meters wide. In the middle of the night, she woke up to her baby crying, and when she turned toward the crib, she saw it. A shadow, the shape of a woman, standing right next to her baby. She froze, her hair stopped, then she screamed, and her husband woke up. Terrified, they both started praying, asking God to make the thing go away. After a few moments, the shadow disappeared, but it didn't end there. The prison's coming back again and again until they finally decide to leave the ranch forever. When she told us this story, she of course said more details, but taking into account the time that we have to share these stories, I didn't want it to make it too long. But every time she told us this story, everyone is super scared. So I consider these stories a good one to share with you.
Have you ever lived near a cemetery? Today I want to tell you a story that my mom experienced many years ago. She told me that when she was newly married about 20 years ago, she rented a house together with some girls in an old neighborhood of Guadalupe, right next to El Panteón de la Cruz in Aguascalientes. She said that four people lived in that house. Her Rebecca, my dad Alfredo, and two girls named Cecilia and Liliana. She says she will never forget that day because she was really scared. She told us that many of her neighbors say they will hear strange noises at night, but she herself had never heard or seen anything until that day. She told us that one early morning around 1 or 2 a.m., while everyone was asleep, a very loud noise was heard outside her room, as if the cupboard in the kitchen, full of dishes, had fallen. At that time, my mom and dad were sleeping in one bedroom, Liliana in another, and Cecilia used to sleep in the living room. After hearing that loud noise, my dad, the only man in the house, got up quickly, thinking someone might have broken in. When he opened the door, they found Cecilia, who slept in the living room, sitting up terrified, and she asked them, "You hear it too, right?" She says she had heard it before, but there was never anything there. "Come look," she told them. Second later, my parents confirmed they had also heard that noise, so they start checking the whole house. It looked a while because it was very large house. My dad, my dad went first, then my mom behind him, Liliana behind my mom, and Cecilia, who was the most scared and didn't want to go first. When they finally reached the kitchen, they saw that everything was perfectly in order, just as it had been before they went to bed that night. My mom said she was really scared because the noise had sounded so loud, like many dishes falling at once. A few minutes later, after feeling nothing, Liliana mentioned she had a bottle of holy water. So they start praying and sprinkling holy water all over the house. That same night, Cecilia slept in Liliana's room and my mom with my dad as usual. A few days later, when my mom told one of her neighbors what had happened, the neighborhood wasn't surprised at all. She told her that she had also heard screams and noises before coming from that cemetery. My mom said she never wanted to live there again because she was too scared something similar might happen. She convinced my dad and they moved up soon after.
I never believed in ghosts. Not until last year, the night something looked back at me through my mirror. I started when I moved into a small apartment downtown. It was cheap, too cheap, but I didn't care. I just needed a place. The first night felt normal until around 3 a.m. I woke up to a noise, like someone breathing slow and heavy. At first, I thought it was just the pipes or maybe the wine, but then I realized it was coming from my closet mirror. I sat up, staring into it. The room behind my reflection looked the same, except I wasn't moving. My reflection was still lying down. I blinked and then it smiled. That's when my heart dropped. I got up whispering, "Stop, just stop." But my reflection didn't. It started sitting up on its own, and the sound of breathing got louder. I ran for the light switch, but when the light came on, the mirror was fucked up. There was a handprint from the inside. I moved out 2 days later, but sometimes when I look into a mirror for just a second, I swear I see her, my reflection, still smiling.
To start with this story, it's important to say that my older sister has always been very sensitive to paranormal things. Since she was little, she sees, hears, and feels things that people commonly cannot. Having said that, let's start. A few years ago, my sister lived with my family in a two-story house located in the neighborhood of La Purísima. At that time, my little brother and I were younger. We didn't usually drink much water and preferred soft drinks or juices with a lot of sugar. So we both ended up getting sick and had to be hospitalized. Since my brother and I were hospitalized, my parents had to be taking care of us. At night, they brought us food and took care of us while we slept. My sister could not go with them, so she preferred to stay alone in the house, since it was something she usually did. One night, she was alone in the house waiting for my dad to pick up some things to take them to the hospital. While she was watching a movie, she heard that the downstairs door opened. She didn't take this as something strange, since the front door connected like two houses and downstairs lived my grandfather, so it could have been him. But after a few minutes, my sister began to hear footsteps going up the stairs. She began to get alert to try to hear who was going up, but after a while, she kept hearing footsteps and the ladder was not so long, so it became strange to her. At the end of those stairs, there was a small wooden door that reached to draw the floor when they moved it. Then she heard when they dragged her slowly. From fear, my sister paused what she was watching on TV and turned to look towards the door. That door had plastics of which you can reach to see a little out. They were stained glass types but plastic. When she turned to the door, she managed to see past like a shadow, and she also heard that someone was passing towards the kitchen that was near the stairs. She, already a little nervous, began to ask if my dad had arrived, but he wasn't. As she was already getting on his nerves and she began to feel chills, she decided to go gather courage and go out to see who had arrived, even with the hope that it was my dad. But she didn't expect what she was going to realize. When she went out to check, there was no one, not even the door was open, despite the fact that she never heard that anyone had come down or closed the wooden door that a few minutes ago she had heard. When she realized that there was no one, she felt very afraid and ran to lock herself in the room again. When she was already locked in the room, she began to hear footsteps outside and again saw the shadow pass by. So she was already a little desperate. She marked my parents to go for her because she kept hearing footsteps and seeing how someone was outside. After a while, my dad came for her and found her crying with fear, and she told him everything that happened, and they asked my grandfather if he had entered his part of the house or something, but that day he had stayed at my uncle's house, so it could not have been him. Since that day, the doubt remains what could have been, but as I already mentioned, my sister is very sensitive to paranormal things, so that kind of things keeps happening to her.
A few years ago, my aunt Anna and my uncle Diego bought an enormous house on the edge of a town. It was 2 stories, with a huge yard, wooden furniture, and a bunch of upstairs doors that were all locked. The weird thing was that, despite its size and condition, the house was shockingly cheap, almost unreal compared to the prices of houses today. That caught my aunt and uncle attention, but they decided it was a good investment. They also wanted a pig, coming home for their daughter Renata, who was only 5 at the time. I was 10 then, and I spent a lot of time with my cousin Juliana, who was 11. We loved having sleepovers at my grandmother's place. Those nights were our favorite. One day at a family gathering, my grandmother offered for Juliana and me to stay over, and we happily agreed. But my aunt Anna suggested that since she had a new house, maybe we should sleep there instead. It sounded like an adventure, so we said yes. That afternoon, we arrived, dropped our things, and played with little Renata in the yard, throwing a ball, running around, and we were laughing until the sky grew dusky. Around 10:30, we went inside. Juliana and I left the patio door open, and in that moment, Renata started screaming and crying, begging us to close the door. We didn't understand why she was so upset. When she asked, when we asked, she only said, "Because of the man that is bad." We were puzzled but assumed it was her imagination, so we shut the door. That night everything seemed normal, until it wasn't. In the middle of the night, Juliana shook me awake, frantic. She whispered that there was someone outside the window watching our bed. I picked it out, but I didn't saw nothing. Juliana swore she'd seen another man staring straight at us. Our bed was right under that window. The next day, nothing unusual happened, but Juliana refused to stay there again. She got nervous whenever the family met at that house, and Renata would freak out any time. The patio door was left open. I told myself I didn't believe in those things, but I couldn't help feeling uneasy. 2 months later, something far more disturbing happened. My uncle managed to open one of the locked upstairs doors, and what was inside was completely out of the ordinary. Pentagrams, straw on the floor, dried blood stains, and bones. Bones of dogs and other animals. But in a small hole in the floor of that room, my uncle found an old gold watch. He took it and he didn't tell anyone. After that, strange things escalate. Objects breaking for no reason, small accidents, and the atmosphere of tension in that house. A few days later, my uncle returned the watch to the hole where he had found it. Almost immediately, everything went back to normal, but they had to move at the end.
Well, this story happened about 10 or 12 years ago in a hospital. This is a story that my grandmother told me when I was little. Well, I had an aunt who was very sick and she had to go to the hospital all the time, and sometimes she had to stay there for weeks. And my grandmother was the only one allowed to stay with her at night. During some nights, the hospital was almost empty. Only a few nurses and doctors were around, and the hallways were quiet and kind of dark. My grandmother said that she didn't like leaving my aunt's room because the place felt really, really creepy. She's always been sensitive to paranormal things, and strange things have happened to her even at home with her other daughters. But sometimes she had to go out to the bathroom to look for a nurse or maybe to ask for a doctor. And many times when she walked through the halls, she saw a nurse in a white uniform. The nurse was just walking quickly and never answered when my grandmother tried to talk to her. This happened for several nights. But one day she noticed that the nurse's uniform looked different from the others. Later, when she mentioned it to another nurse, she told her something that gave her chills. The nurse said that people often talk about seeing a woman in white who looked like nurse but wasn't real. Some said she had died years ago during a night. Others said when they tried to talk to her, she either ignored them or disappeared down the hall. They even warned my grandmother, if you see her again, don't talk to her, just walk away. But one night, my grandmother saw her again. Thinking she was a real nurse, she stopped her and asked for help. The nurse replied softly, yes, I'll tell the doctor right now, but she never turned to look at her. My grandmother realized she had never seen the nurse's face, not once. After that, my grandmother started avoiding leaving the room at night. The nurses said not to worry, but others say that bad things happen to those who try to follow her. Then my grandmother and my aunt were heading to the elevator. My aunt was in a wheelchair, and they saw that the same nurse stepped inside with a few other people. She didn't know if the others could see her too, or if it was only her. So she waited for the next elevator. When she finally got in, she said the air felt heavy, strange, and when the doors opened, everyone got out, including the same nurse in white. She walked out quietly, never turning around, never showing her face.
And it's about the red ones. And well, this specifically story, it's about a girl that when she was a child, she used to go to the house of the neighbor to play with the little girl, the family. I mean, there was two girls that used to play together, and something important to say is that the houses were connected by the yard that was in the middle, and it was like an enclosed space because don't there don't was any way to go out if not are the doors of the houses. I mean, there was like enclosed spaces I mentioned. So the girl that told us the story says that the other girl sometimes had like stranger behavior because they she start to speaking alone and mention the red ones, and in words of the other girl, the red ones was like humans but bigger and large and the color red. And she tell them the red ones sometimes visit the other girl, and there was like invisible creators because just the girl that mentioned to see the red ones have the ability to see them. The other girl don't say anything. Well, this like kind of behavior, these times when the girls start to speak alone, don't matter too much to the other girl, the girl that tells the story. But she remembered that sometimes the other girl tell her some things about these red ones and says that they sometimes visit her and try to convince her to come with them. So that was really strange for me. But for the other girl, that was not like so deep. Well, the time passed, and the girl that tells the story remember that one day, they were playing. They was oh yes, they were playing in the yard, but they were playing separate. I mean, the other girl was playing with dolls, and the girl that tell us the story was playing with something else. So she remembered what suddenly the other girl started to speak alone again, but the other girl don't uh, don't take don't care the situation because it was really common for her that the the friend started to speak in alone and speak with these red ones because until this time the red ones don't were like dangerous for her, just were like invisible creators that just her have the ability to see. But well, in that moment when the other girl started speaking, the girl that tells the story turned to see the girl and then go back to continue playing. But in seconds, a little time, the girl go back to see the girl. Turn again to see the girl, and the girl has disappeared. The girl that tells us the story then thought that The other girl go to the house, but a few minutes later, the mom of the girl go with the girls to ask for her daughter, and the other girl says that I don't know. I think that she was in the house. The situation comes to turn like more deep because the girl were report by report as lost in the town of they lived, and the parents of the girl and the parents of the other girl start to try to find the girl, but they never find her. She just disappeared that day in question of seconds. I mean, in seconds, and the other girl don't have any explanation, and she didn't. I mean, find how the girl like disappeared or where she go or what happened with her. I mean, that was really stranger. But this tell this story because she remember the red ones, and she remember how this girl mentioned before that the red ones tried to convince her to go with them. And this story like start to this story was really, I mean, this situation was really big. And then when the story like were more famous, some people, more people, uh, tell us or tell in the yes, more people start to tell that they have similar situations or that they remember that his his or her, I mean, the younger people, I mean the kids, my brother or my sister mentioned the red ones, and this kind of stories start to repeat in different people, and they have similar experience. But in this case, the girl that see the red ones disappear because maybe she accept to go with them. I don't know, but the red ones, it's kind of a legend that happens, and then some people start to tell that it also happens to them. I think it's really strange and really interesting to say and think how this could be happen. I mean, to how the girl disappeared. And yeah, this is the story of the red ones.
Thank you for watching. Thank you to our subscribers for their great stories. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a like and share with somebody you think might like it. Happy Halloween. Happy Dia de Muertos. I am Torok, and this is Nictima. Remember, our stories don't just end, they echo.